Hello everyone. Receive a warm welcome to another conference of this self-knowledge course. Today we will study topic number 42 of the 50 lectures that make up Phase A of this course. In this topic we will talk about the two types of knowledge that exist, objective knowledge and subjective knowledge. In this topic we will learn to differentiate between these two types of knowledge. We will understand which one serves us for inner advancement, and what negative consequences the accumulation of subjective knowledge brings to our consciousness. There are two worlds, the external world and the inner world. Each of these worlds has its own reality. The external world is made up of all the things that we know externally. Since we see them and can touch them, we believe they are real, and we allow ourselves to be fascinated by them. But it is interesting to observe how we are so fascinated with the outside world, with what we can perceive through the senses, with people, animals, houses, cars, cell phones, money, prestige, luxuries, etc., that we don't give importance to the inner world and, therefore, as we have been forming and strengthening our personality, we have been losing the ability to perceive the reality of our inner world. But it happens that all those things that make up the external world are of a temporary nature. It is only by seeing those places where ruins of past civilizations are found to realize that everything passes. People, buildings, continents pass. Animals become extinct, everything, absolutely everything that belongs to the physical world, at some point passes. Time swallows it. On the other hand, the inner world, that reality that exists within each of us, and that resides in our spirit, in our consciousness, is eternal. It has always existed and will always exist. As we saw at the beginning of this course when we analyzed the topic of what death is, and what dies, and what doesn't die at the moment of the death of the physical body. We saw that 3% of consciousness in us, which is our essence, never dies. It passes from existence to existence. And even after the second death, it continues to exist. On the other hand, the physical and vital body die, and at the same time, the personality disintegrates. But it is precisely our personality, which has been formed in this external world by imitating what we see others doing, that leads us to become fascinated with the physical world and with the material things. And since we have been growing up, we have seen how everyone is in an incessant race to achieve comfort, prestige, money, fame, pleasure, recognition, etc. We also embark on that same race, which makes us increasingly materialistic and stunts our ability to develop spiritually. When studying the personality, we find that it is governed by social norms, what is allowed and not allowed in a society. But if we analyze this, we see that these social norms become obsolete from one moment to the next. What a few years ago was a cause for scandal, a few years later becomes the most common. So, from a young age, depending on the culture and family in which we were born, many concepts and precepts, both religious, social, and moral, begin to be instilled in us. And these begin to shape our personality, our way of acting, thinking, and reacting to the various circumstances of our life, but not in a reflective way, but in a rigid way, according to what we have learned is correct or not, and not according to the reality of the circumstance. In addition to this, we began to receive what is known as a formal education, kindergarten, primary school, secondary school, university, specializations, master's degrees, etc. And we were accumulating countless information, most of which is not useful to us. And with this, we are developing that personality more and more, and moving further and further away from our spiritual part, from our consciousness, which in us is the real and eternal knowledge. All this knowledge that we receive in the external world is subjective knowledge. It is based on belief, but not on direct verification of the reality of things. And this only leads to the intellectualization of the person, and never to true wisdom. This knowledge is received by the personality, and results in the atrophy and alienation of consciousness. It mechanizes us, it turns us into theorists, it atrophies our intellectual center. We go to a school, and there they give us predigested concepts that others issued and captured in books. And what we have to do to pass the grade, to receive awards, and so on, is simply learn and repeat all these concepts precisely. Likewise, in our family we are instilled with a religion, and we are fine with the family and the religious circle, if we take the books, religious concepts, and criteria issued there, and believe them and repeat them faithfully. That is why it is really important to reflect on the fleeting nature of all external knowledge, and on how many things that we were taught years ago were later modified. At one time it was firmly believed that the earth was flat, and that the earth was the center of the universe, and those who dared to believe otherwise were even accused of being heretics and killed. Over time this was modified, and it began to be taught that the earth was round and that the planets of the solar system revolve around the sun. Recently, some people and groups have wanted to reintroduce the idea that the earth is flat, with the intention of normalizing that criterion. If we are only developing subjective knowledge, we will have no choice but to believe and defend what seems most logical to us and reject what is not. But that is exactly where we have to get out of, believing or not believing. And to do so, we must begin to understand that we must stop the accumulation of subjective knowledge, stop inserting so many concepts, so many theories, so many speculations, and begin to search the objective knowledge that we will only find through direct experimentation in our inner world. Thus, we can see that subjective knowledge doesn't seek for us to experience for ourselves, nor for us to investigate and reach direct verification, nor for us to reflect and achieve our own knowledge. And with this, we become just machines that receive and process borrowed information. Subjective, or personality knowledge, atrophies consciousness and alienates it. It mechanizes us, turns us into theorists, atrophies our intellectual center. Clearly speaking, if one desires self-realization, the less acquired subjective knowledge one has, the better. If we think about those great philosophers, inventors, doctors, and physicists of antiquity, we will realize that they didn't dedicate themselves to filling themselves with foreign concepts. But, on the contrary, they dedicated themselves to directly observing phenomena, to understanding them, and investigate the reality of existing things in their inner world. But as societies become increasingly materialistic and worship personality, we lose interest in reflecting and investigating internally, and we settle for assimilating the concepts, erroneous or not, that others establish. We settle for believing, and therefore, we never reach true knowledge. The word knowledge comes from knowing, which tells us that it is something that has to be done personally. Most of us, in the process of intellectualization, believed that learning mechanically, or memoizing, was enough. And we became believers in everything we have been told, but we haven't known anything of what we supposedly know, because we missed the most important part of knowing, which is checking. The inner world is different. In it we find two kinds of realities. One is the free and conscious essence, the 3%. And the other is the essence trapped in the psychological self, the 97%. But 100% of our essence is what truly counts, it is our being. That essence is our particular God, the real, the true, the eternal, the beautiful, what doesn't pass in each of us. Every spark of consciousness trapped in each of our psychological defects is taking a course there, a master's degree. It is acquiring experiences from the moment we created those defects hundreds of existences ago. And when we release them, when we eliminate from us those eyes, or psychological defects that make up our ego, we will rescue true wisdom, consciousness, which is what is real in us. This is how we get to know ourselves and how we become wise and virtuous. Since our conscience is asleep, we don't even know that we came to this world with an objective, which is to know ourselves, to know our particular inner God. We became fascinated with the external world and began to worship that golden calf, that is personality, and its pleasures. And we began to do everything we were told was necessary to be great and important. But when we realize that nothing we achieve in the world is really going to satisfy us, and that sooner or later all of this will pass, we reach that critical point in which consciousness makes us feel that there must be something more. It makes us feel that there must be a higher purpose for our existence, and that there must be a more superior knowledge than all the subjective knowledge that we have been acquiring. And that is the objective knowledge that we will achieve as we begin to know ourselves. Objective knowledge is based on direct experimentation and verification of both external and internal realities. Objective knowledge can only be received by that which is objective or real in us, which is our essence. And this is the knowledge that we receive in our inner world. But to know ourselves and to be able to know our inner world, the first thing will be to learn to observe it, since the sense that allows it is atrophied in the majority of humans. That sense is self-observation. When we discover any of our defects and understand that one of our sparks is trapped within it, we see that we must release it to rescue the wisdom that this spark of essence was acquiring in the defect. For this, it is necessary to understand why this defect was created, how it is nourished, how it drives us, and beg our mother to eliminate it. Then, the essence will be released. Trapped in our defects of anger is much trapped wisdom related to meekness, compassion, seeking peace, kindness, etc. Trapped in our defects of lust and fornication is a lot of wisdom trapped around the importance of sexuality and the regenerative and healing power that our sexual creative energy has, as well as the ability we have, as human beings, to heal ourselves. And so, trapped in each of our defects, there is a lot of knowledge that we will only be able to obtain if we learn to die in ourselves, that is, to practice psychological death at all times. When we eliminate a psychological defect, the essence is released, and once emancipated it will awaken its consciousness, receiving from the Father its own objective knowledge, its vocation or office within our microcosm, or inner universe. The knowledge extracted from each defect is the knowledge from knowing, or the wisdom extracted from the experience of the essence. If we begin the work of eliminating each of our defects, our being will begin to integrate, and we will awaken an objective knowledge, since it is a knowledge of our being, it is a knowledge that doesn't pass away. It is the wisdom of our own consciousness. Inner, or objective knowledge, is not a matter of theory, or readings, or stories. It is something practical that we have to do based on the 3 factors for the revolution of consciousness. When we die psychologically, we release the essence and move towards wisdom. When we are born spiritually, uniting that liberated consciousness with the free 3% in the practice of suprasex, we create the existential bodies of the being that will allow us to know the different dimensions of nature. And when we sacrifice ourselves for humanity, we will consciously integrate ourselves into the law of love. In order to develop objective knowledge, it is necessary to create the internal bodies, which allow us to get to know the different dimensions of nature and the cosmos. If we make the mistake of not creating our superior bodies of the being, we will never know ourselves in an objective way, since in these bodies we will integrate the being and the knowledge. Then, we will go from being mere puppets of our egos, embarked on a race and in a constant struggle that will inevitably take us to the grave, to being 100% conscious beings, immortal beings with full consciousness, and wisdom from the 7 dimensions of the nature. We all have 7 consciousnesses, and these are in embryo within our sexual creative energy, and when we learn to create ourselves through sexual transmutation, we develop each of these consciousnesses. When we manage to regenerate our physical body and develop the physical body's consciousness, we get to truly know the 3rd dimension, and we can begin to understand all the wisdom that this physical plane has. With the vital body, we will know the 4th dimension, the genus paradises. With the astral body, we will know all the stars and planets. With the mental body, we will know the world of atoms, and we will be able to extract wisdom from them. With the body of the will, we will know the electronic worlds or planets of the Christ, everything that is, has been and will be. With the Buddhic body, we will know the electromagnetic worlds, the true happiness. With the Atmic body, we will immerse ourselves in the ocean of light. Without these seven bodies or objective knowledge, it is impossible to begin to know the universe and the gods. The Greeks taught that one had to first know oneself in order to know the universe and the gods. Objective knowledge allows us to know what is real, the reason for existing, our role in the universe. It allows us to merge with our being. If we want to reach objective knowledge, we have to check and practice everything we are receiving here. Let's remember that the word knowledge comes from knowing. If one doesn't know directly, one doesn't have true knowledge. We cannot continue to settle for believing and repeating what others say. We have to start practicing and checking, to gradually acquire our own knowledge, the knowledge of our being. Thus, we can give others increasingly clear and objective knowledge, because when we only teach the dead letter, repeating what the masters taught, for us it is a lie. Therefore, each person must acquire their own knowledge. Thus, with the experience of knowledge we become increasingly deeper in teaching, because we are going to talk about our own knowledge. In this knowledge we are receiving in this course, we will find the basis for each of us to reach our own knowledge. Know yourself and you will know the universe and the gods. This was today's conference. I hope it motivates you to reflect and encourages you to seek and awaken your inner knowledge. Remember to leave any questions you have on the topic in the comments. I invite you to the next conference of the course. A very interesting conference in which we will talk about lust, and the different details of it, that prevent us from achieving chastity. Thank you very much for attending this topic. See you at the next conference.